And we're live, guys.
Alright, now we're going to do a sketch. This is very similar to one that we already did. It is running, right?
Did you just start it?
Yes, I just started.
Is it been on?
No, we actually turned
Why?
it
Are you doing something you shouldn't have
Alright. Focus, we got to get this done. This is what we're going to sketch this one. It's a cube, which means it's going to start down and end up. However, we can't do that part until we figure out where the dots go. So to figure out where the dots go, we're going to factor that. So what can we do to factor that? We can take out an x, and we're left with x squared minus 9, which factors, x squared minus 9 factors into x minus 3, x plus 3, right?
Yep.
Okay, Luke No Hood's in the building, thank you. Now, where do the dots go then? These are the factors. Where do the dots go? On the x-axis, where do I put my dots?
0, 3.
0, 3, -3. That's where the dots go. When there's no number, it goes at 0. Now, how did you say this behaved? It starts down. Are any of these factors squared? No. So that means there won't be any bounce off or tangent zeros, right? They're all going to go through. So here it goes. Go through, go through, go through. And there it is. Sketched. All right. Next. Now we need to list the possible rational roots. Okay? Now, the possible rational roots. Who remembers how to find those? So we're just making a list. Caesar? It's factors of 6, which would be 6, 3, 2, and 1, over factors of 3, which are 3 and 1. So the PRRs are factors of 6 over factors of 3. Now, I will admit that many of our problems look like this when we did this before. So you're not really used to looking here because when there's no number there, the factors are just 1. But when there's a number there, you have to have those factors in the denominator. So it's last over first. Last over first. So there are your PRRs. Now, find the actual roots. Now, we go to this list, and we start picking numbers, plugging them in, and hoping what happens. We get 0. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 1. I always start with 1 because it's the easiest, especially when I don't have a calculator.
This is still no calculator.
This is the only ones with calculator have stars next to them. If there's no star, there's no calculator. So it looks like that gives me 0. Okay, so I found 1. If it didn't give me 0, I would guess a different number, right? And I would just keep guessing numbers until I got one that gave me 0. Now, what do I do once I find one that gives me 0? I already plugged it in. I divide it out. Once you find one that gives you 0, you do your synthetic division. And you divide out the same number that gave you 0. So 1 gave me a 0, so I'm going to divide out my 1. When I do my synthetic division, that first number drops down, and I multiply and add. And sure enough, it gives me a remainder of 0. What's this? 3x squared minus 3x minus 6. Now what do I do with that? I don't stop here. I need to solve that. So that hopefully factors I know I can take out a 3. If I take out a 3 from it, it does factor, bless you, into that. So we need to write the actual roots now. The question said, list the PRRs, possible rational roots, did it. Now do the actual roots. So what do we put in the answer blank? X equals what? 2, -1, and 1. Don't forget, the 1 you guessed is a 0. It divided out and left a 0. The 3 doesn't count because it doesn't have an X. It's just an extra number in there, so it doesn't count. Girls. So the answers are the 2 and the -1 that came from the factors, and the number 1 that you guessed. Now 22 is a calculator problem. So here we go. 22. Solve this. X is an exponent. You got to get it down. You can't solve it when it's up high like that, so we got to get it down. The only way to get it down is to use logarithms. So you're saying ln, you are exactly right. lne will cancel, so 3x minus 1 equals ln 5. So 3x equals ln 5 plus 1, and x equals ln 5 plus 1 over 3. Make sure, it would be great if you actually type this in.
Oh, we can use our calculator on this one.
If it's starred, you can use your calculator. The answer is 0.8698. If you're not getting that, make sure that you are either putting this in parentheses or hitting equals after you do it. So ln 5 plus 1 equals divided by 3. Okay. 23. This is a formula problem. You don't need to memorize the formula, but you need to know which one you're going to use. So read the problem. Compounded weekly. Is this PERT or the other one? Other one. So the formula you're going to choose is this one. How much would you have if you invested 12,000? So where does the 12,000 go? No, 12,000 is P. It's what you're starting with. You are starting with 12,000. 3.5% on your test. A lot of you used 3.5. No, when you put a percentage into an equation, every time, every formula, when you put a percentage in, it goes in as a decimal. So 3.5% would be 0.035 divided by 52. Why 52? Because N is weekly, and there are 52 weeks in a year. Monthly would be 12. And then I'm raising that to the NT power, so that's 52 times how many years? 10? So 520. And I want to know, how much money am I going to end up with? We just type this in. There's nothing to do here. There's no logarithms. You just type it in. So I start right here. 1 plus, oh wait a minute, I got some other stuff going on. 1 plus 0.035 divided by 52 equals, so I just typed this in right here exactly like it says. Now I'm going to raise that using my little caret button to the 5/20th, and then take that times 12,000. Oops, 12,000. And I get 17,026. Oh wait, did it say to the nearest dollar? That would be 27. To the nearest whole dollar would be 27. It's like 81 cents.
Are we gonna have a separate test for captain?
Yeah, it's two separate pieces. So you take one piece and then you turn it in and then you get the other piece. Yep. All right, 24. Find the growth constant for a strain of bacteria. Okay, what's the formula we're going to use if it's bacteria? Proof. So we'll choose proof. And it says find the growth constant if 386 grow into 1025 in 3.8 hours. So T is 3.8. All right, so how do I go about solving this? Notice my exponent is up here, right? So I'm going to need logarithms, but not yet. What do I have to do first? Divide. So 1225 over 386 equals e to the 3.8r. Now it's just like this one over here. Now what are we going to do? ln. Once you get the division done, ln. So ln 1025 over 386 equals what happens over here? Gone 3.8r. So how are we going to get our answer? We're going to take this guy right here and divide him by 3.8, aren't we? So here we go. ln, I wish you were all typing in with me to make sure, because one thing I noticed on the test, some of you can type it or can set it up perfectly and you don't get the right answer. So this is 0.257. So R is 0.257. That is the number that you should be getting. All right, 25, we're back to no calculator. How do we write the, oh my gosh, write the equation. This is like a 7th grade problem. We can do this. How do we write the equation of a line? What do we need to find first? Slope. So slope is 11 minus 1 over 3 minus negative 2. Y minus y, x minus x. 10 over 5, that is 2. So my slope is 2. Now you can choose, it doesn't matter. You can use y equals mx plus b, or you can use point slope. Which do you want to use?
Y equals mx.
All right, y equals mx plus b. Pick a point. I'll pick this one because it doesn't have any negatives. 11 equals 2 times 3 plus b. So 11 equals 6 plus b, and b equals 5. Remember, I'm putting y in for y, m in for m, and x in for x. So what's my answer? Y equals 2x plus 5. 26 is also easy, at least to start with. It has one tricky little thing in it. How do you start 26? It's FOIL. It's a FOIL problem. So first, outside, inside, last. Now, here's the part you have to remember. What's I squared? Negative 1. So a negative 2I squared would be plus 2. Then you just collect like terms. So you have 12 and 2, that's 14, and 6i minus 4i, that's plus 2i. I squared is negative 1. So when you FOIL that, you're going to get an I squared, which is a negative 1, so that's how that got to be a plus 2. Find the final cost of an item if there's a 20% discount and a 7% tax, and the original price is $32.50. So I'm starting with $32.50, and I'm multiplying it by two things. I'm multiplying it by the discount and the tax. Now remember, The discount is 20%, but you don't multiply by 20%. You multiply by 80%. Because when we multiply, it's 1 minus the discount and 1 plus the tax. So think of it this way. When you go into the store and it says a 20% discount, that means you don't pay 20%, but you still have to pay 80%, right? And 1.07, that is your tax. So the answer is 3250 times 80, or 0.80, and then times 0.107. So you're going to pay $27.82. Now you're going to have a calculator on that problem. So if you choose to do it a different way, that's absolutely fine, as long as the answer comes out to be 2782. That's our goal. All right, now we've got 28. Solving this inequality. All right, how do we solve this inequality? Factor. Factor, factor, factor. So x minus 7x plus 1. I think, is this the only inequality on the test? Remember, when there's an inequality, you're going to want to draw a number line. This number line is going to have 2 dots on it. Where are those dots going to be? At 7 and -1? Boys? And then I'm going to pick a number, any number except 7 and -1. And I'm going to put it in and see if it works for me. So what's a number besides -1 and 7? 1. The number 1 is a fine number. It's in here. 1 would be in here. If I put 1 in, I get -6 times 2. What is -6 times 2? -12. Is that bigger than 0? -12 bigger than 0? No. So that means these don't work. That number I picked in there did not work. So this must work and that must work. So your answer is everything from -infinity to -1, or everything from 7 to infinity.
Why did you use brackets in this?
Because those dots are open, because that's not an or equal to.
When I thought infinity's always been brackets.
Infinities never have brackets. Infinities always have brackets. You can't get to infinity. It's always open. All right, number 29. How do we do this? What's our kind of our general formula like thing? Amount times percent plus amount times percent equals amount times percent. All right, so here we go. We start filling in the amounts and the percents. So how much? 15%, and just like before, I don't put in 15, I put in 0.15. Should be mixed with 18 gallons of 20% to get a mixture that is 16%. Now, there's a parentheses that's open. What goes in there? 18 plus x, or x plus 18. If the empty parentheses is here, it's 18 plus x. If the empty parentheses is here, it's 18 minus x. These are the only 2 places we've ever had empty parentheses. All right, so we got a calculator if we need it. I don't know what 16 times 18 is. Fairly less than that, right? 2.88. So 0.01x equals 2. How to make
Big Dad.
0.72. So X equals 72 gallons. The answer is 72 gallons. All right, hang on, we got just a few more problems to go.
Luke, can you see what your mom did already?
All right, so now
No, he lost.
Now we're going to simplify. Now, you can do this. You can do this in a lot of different ways. But since we're running out of time, I'm going to use my personal favorite. My personal favorite is to combine things in here first. So I see my 3 and my 4. All right, now I got a negative, I got x's to a negative here, so they're going to come down. There are 3 of them here coming down to join 5, so I'm going to have x to the 8th on the bottom. Negatives mean they move. Now, there's no negatives here. There's 7 of them over 2 of them.
Yeah.
So that would be y to the 5th, right? And then, oh no, now they're both negative.
Can move those 5 up.
So the 5 go up, the 2 come down. They're both negative, so they flip-flop. Now I've got 5 over 2, so I'll have 3 on top.
If you move the z to the negative 5th up, doesn't it just become z to the 3rd?
It can, yep. Now, I'm going to square everything. So that would be 9 and 16. And then y to the 10th, z to the 6th, and x to the 16th. We square everything. That means take 2 of them. So y to the 5th, y to the 5th. That's how we get y to the 10th. Name the property. A. What property is an A? Commutative. That is right. If the order changes, it's commutative. How about B? Distributive. That's a distributive. How about C?
Zero property.
Additive identity. It's called the additive identity. And D? Associative. You regrouped. The order stayed the same, but we regrouped. So D is associative.
You only have to put the written on the zeros and the 1.
Yeah, now you want to be careful of this multiple choice. It may say associative of addition.
But that's all right.
No, that's fine. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. All right, now I want to get to number 32, the back page. This page is literally photocopied from your exam.
Oh.
This is photocopied. The only thing, if you look down at the picture, you can see I have white outed the numbers and replaced them. So your last page of your exam is going to look exactly like this, except the numbers won't be 11 and 15. Everything else is going to be identical. Okay, this is the exam page, photocopy. All right? Now, how does this work? Well, let's see. We're making a box. We have made boxes before. Who remembers what the equation of the volume is? It's 3 things, length, width, and height. Who remembers what they are if the paper is 11 by 15? Be careful. It's 11 minus 2x, 15 minus 2x, and x. Remember, look down at the picture. What you're doing is taking 15 inches and cutting x off the top and x off the bottom. 15 minus 2x. Same thing this way, 11 minus 2x. Then you're folding up the flaps so the height is just X. That's your volume. So where it says V of X, that's what you put in. Now, kids, what if the paper on the exam is 10 by 20? Then it would be 10 minus 2x, 20 minus 2x, x. If you missed that, you didn't study, because I'm telling you exactly that's the way it is every time. It never changes. Now, what about domain? Domain never changes. Whoops. You want x between two things, and this one is always 0. X has to be a positive number. You can't cut out a negative corner. X has to be positive. For our problem, what's this upper limit? 5.5. It's always half the smallest dimension. We talked about that, talked about it. It's always half the smallest dimension. So my smallest dimension is 11. Half of 11 is 5.5. Go back to my 10 by 20 paper. What's the domain if the paper is 10 by 20? 0 less than x less than 5. Right? It's always 0, half the smallest dimension. Now, we got to graph it because we are going to find the maximum. So we need to graph it. This is my x min and max. That tells me x has to be between 0 and 5.5. So that's x min and max. Done. Y min is always 0. It stands for the volume. The volume must be positive. So Y min is always 0. Now, what's Y max? I have no idea. So I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 500. I'm just randomly guessing a number. When I graph this, this is what I better see. If I don't see that, I may have to make that number bigger, remember? To accommodate. I am randomly guessing. I have no idea. I'm going to put in, oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to put in my equation, which is 11 minus 2x, 15 minus 2x, and x. My window is 0 to 5.5, and 0 to 500. All right? Oh, I see it. 500 worked fine. Would there be other numbers besides 500 that would work? Yes. It doesn't matter what you put up here as long as you can see the whole hill. Now, as soon as I can see the whole hill, which I can, I'm going to find the maximum point. I find the maximum point by second calc, right? And then go down to maximum. And then I do my left bound, right bound thing. And my maximum point turns out to be 2.09, 154.2. All right, that's the maximum straight off my calculator. Use your calculator to find the size of the notch X, which maximizes the volume. That is the question that I'm reading right off here. So of these two numbers, which one do I want? Read the question. It says, find X. Yeah, so you want 2.09. So the size of the notch is 2.09 inches. If the question had said, what is the maximum volume, what actually is the volume of the box, then it would be 154.2 cubic inches. But the problem literally says, find the size of the notch. That's X. It says X. Okay? All right, exam done. We just took the exam.
Go Irish.
Yep, every problem there. So tomorrow, there is nothing on the exam that's not on these sheets. Okay?
I've heard that before.
Well, you didn't hear it from me before.
Fair enough.
All right, so tomorrow we're going to do exam review number 2. Shh. We have 5 minutes. We're going to use this time productively because this exam, some of you it's really important for. Some of you it doesn't really matter, but some of you it's super important for. So we're all going to pay attention, leave it on, and we're going to do whatever kind of problem we need an extra practice for. Pick.
Wait, are we in here?
On which one? Okay, I want to find asymptotes. To find asymptotes, remember, vertical asymptotes come from where the denominator is 0. So if I want my denominator to be 0, x would have to be what in this problem? This will be my vertical asymptote. X would equal, thank you, 1/2. So my vertical asymptote is x equals 1/2. My horizontal asymptote comes right here. My horizontal asymptote is 5/8. There are 3 things that are going to happen when you do a horizontal asymptote. Either these powers match, and they do, and if they do, then it's just that fraction, or the one on the bottom is going to be bigger, which means the asymptote is 0, or the one on the top is going to be bigger, which means there is no horizontal asymptote. You just got to know the rules. Got to know the rules. All right, Camry?
Is the x minimum always 0?
Yes.
Okay.
On a box problem, absolutely. How can you cut out negative corners? No way. X has got to be a positive number. All right, what else? We have time for 1 or 2 more.
So we can just come right after our second final tomorrow in this classroom.
Tomorrow we're at 1 o'clock.
So be here by 1 o'clock.
About 1 o'clock.
How
Right.
do you think we'll do the review until we start?
It'll take us close to an hour and a half. I don't know, we just did one. I don't know what the total time was that we did, but close to an hour and a half, 70, 80, 90
This is open
minutes.
for all classes, so we'll have room.
Well, I don't know how many
Will we
people
all
are
fit
coming.
in here? There's a lot of people coming.
Well, whoever comes, we'll figure it out.
And then we take the non-calculator question first.
Mhm. Actually, it really doesn't matter. So if you wanted to do the calculator part first, you could. Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
Are we gonna get our test back?
I will be happy to show, I don't have time to pass them back. I'll be happy to show it to you if you want to come by. I have a meeting until 3:30, but then I'll be in here. All right. Anybody else? So everybody's good? What? There's probably more no calculators. You two, now I'm done.